if this was not a TED Talk, but a TikTok or an Instagram reel, and you all saw me while you're, scrolling through your feed, I would only have a couple of seconds to stop you from scrolling, grab your attention, and, make sure you stick around. And I would need a personal hook that relates to you. So I would probably start out like this. Gen Z news avoidance is the myth. Journalists just have to get better at telling the news. And here's why you should care. Because if journalists don't get better at this, society and therefore your lifestyle could be at risk. Yes, really. But this is not a TikTok, and you guys have committed to staying in your seats for at least 10 minutes, so I have a little bit more time. So let me start out with a personal story. The reason why I can relate so well to traditional journalists, meaning, people who tell their story on platforms like a print newspaper, TV, or even online newspaper, is because I used to be one of them. I worked in TV, and yes, for years, I walked to my mailbox in the morning to check out my articles, yes, in a printed newspaper that got delivered to my door. But today, I work as a social media journalist for Germany's international broadcaster Deutsche Welle. And actually, I can't even remember the last time I read a printed newspaper. But I'm also a news content creator, meaning I have around 350,000 people who follow me on my personal TikTok and Instagram accounts for news updates in English about Germany. So actually, I have a lot of followers like you guys sitting in the audience today, international students. And so I'm very lucky because I have both perspectives. In my day job, I work as a journalist, and then at night, I run my TikTok and Instagram, my personal accounts, like a news content creator. But how did I go from here, the newspaper, to the selfie stick? So, in the summer of 2020, so about 3.5 years ago, I started Deutsche Welle's very first TikTok account called Berlin Fresh. And at that time, there weren't, many media houses on TikTok, so I didn't really have a lot of best practice examples to study. But I really wanted to learn how to reach young people with journalistic content on this new platform. So I thought, okay, I'll just start my own account, and then, I can just try out as many things possible, different formats, and whatever is successful, I can then implement at my job as a strategy. So I listened really closely to my audience and ended up building a huge digital following, even though I never set out to be successful in my personal accounts. But today, this community is so strong, it actually works as a real-life community as well. I ask random strangers from the internet to meet me for a little meet and greet, so let's go and see who shows up. This part is super nerve-wracking because I'm always panicking between no one is going to show up and too many are going to show up. The first thing I see is someone greeting me with flowers. Wait, what? Turns out I didn't have to worry about no one showing up. Even the rain can't keep you, my lovely followers, away.
I came here to study a master in project management and will follow your content because I like to get the updates on the new laws and regulations.
I follow you because you give me all the amazing insights on how to live life as an immigrant in Germany, which is interesting because you're German, but you give us all the tips and tricks and all the latest news in a very easy to digest format.
So, I'm not going to lie to you, making a video, putting it out to the world and saying, oh, I'm going to be there at 3:00 this Sunday afternoon, and just waiting for whoever is going to show up, that's always a little bit scary for me. But it's only scary until people show up, and then it's really the best experience ever. I learned so much from my community about, how to reach young people on these platforms, and I'm still learning every day. So yeah, that's my personal story. You can go viral with journalism and news on these Gen Z platforms. But I know many of my fellow traditional journalists think this, young people don't read or watch the news. They think, Gen Z doesn't care about politics, doesn't care about what's going on in the world. All they do is scroll through TikTok watching the latest Harry Styles first trip. And sure, if you look at the numbers, that seems to be true because numbers for traditional media outlets are down, way down. And if I was going to ask you guys, the students sitting here in the audience today, if you still have a newspaper subscription, even just a digital, one guy is nodding, even just a digital one, I don't think so many of you guys would actually raise your hand. So young people are not interested in journalistic news content. Sounds plausible, right? Except there is one tiny little problem. It's simply not true. And you guys know it's not true because you are these people we are talking about. You're students and you watch news videos all the time. And I know it's not true because I make some of these videos. And for me, it's just the other way around. The more informative or newsy my videos are, the higher the chance of them to go viral on TikTok and Instagram. In fact, I go viral with videos that are so informative, they sound really boring if I describe them to you, because I actually read out of draft laws. So let's just watch a bit.
Germany promised to make big changes to its immigration system, and it looks like they're about to deliver. Yep, we have it in black and white, the drafted law. Let's look at the fine print and see what actually changed. There was a lot of speculation about what some call a German green card. And now we know. I have it here in my hand, the draft law. It's 100 pages. So right now, let's just look at the pages I know you guys are the most interested in. That's what it says right here in the drafted law. If you qualify for the opportunity card, what some call the German green card, you don't have to speak any German. According to the draft law, you have to have A2 level German language skills or good knowledge of English. The important word here is or, meaning if your English is good enough, can do it.
So yes, you can be successful with videos that are full of information as long as you tell the people who are watching what this news, what this law means for their daily lives. Which is why, today I'm talking about why Gen Z news avoidance is a myth and we journalists just have to get better at telling the news. Because one thing is true, young people want their news told differently than their parents. And, you guys want them on the apps you're already on, so TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube. But that doesn't seem to be an easy thing for journalists working at media houses, which is why actually the majority of TikTok and Instagram users don't get their news anymore from journalists or media houses. They get them from what we call news influencers or social media personalities. And which is why I believe we really have to learn from these news content creators as journalists to understand why, we have to ask ourselves, why are they actually reaching our target audience better than we can? And so, of course, the big question is, what do these news content creators, social media personalities do differently than your TV journalist, your print journalist? And so what do I do differently? Let's just ask the people who actually watch my videos.
I love the way you explain the news because it's very easy for me to understand. But most importantly, the way you explain it helps me understand how it affects my life.
I like watching Johanna's TikToks because although they are news, they are not boring. The way she's speaking it to us, it's in the TikTok lingo, so never boring and fun.
So it's all about taking the news, breaking it down, explaining to you what it means for your daily lives. But it's also about a different kind of delivery, so a more informal tone of voice, speaking with you guys, not just at you. But I feel like some of my fellow journalists, they don't really want to tweak their storytelling to fit these platforms. And one of the reasons is there's nothing more shocking for a serious journalist than this demand to be fun to watch, fun. Because many journalists believe they're doing really serious journalism, while these news content creators do some trashy version of it, cosplaying journalism, so to speak. But I believe there is nothing more journalistic than, taking a really complicated topic and then breaking it down and then explaining in simple, everyday conversational language what it means for your life. And, that's what these social media content creators, news influencers, however we want to call them, do. And that's what I do. And remember the hook I had in the beginning to draw you guys in, because many of you are not, or most of you are not journalists, so I had to make it relevant for you. So let's just look at that again.
Here's why you should care. Because if journalists don't get better at this, society and therefore your lifestyle could be at risk.
Your lifestyle could be at risk. What do I mean by that? Sounds a bit dramatic, doesn't it? But think about it. Not all of these news content creators are using the same rules or working with the same standards as we journalists do. Meaning, fact-checking, researching a story well, being unbiased, having multiple sources. And so actually there are a lot of fake news on these apps that go unchecked. And influencers can be biased. For example, when the German media outlet Korrektiv reported last month about a secret meeting of the far-right AfD party here in Germany, where basically they discussed plans to deport millions of minorities and migrants if they ever came into power, one of the cornerstones of their plan was to invest in influencers to spread their ideology. So yes, if journalists leave these new platforms up to just content creators, people won't always be able to make informed decisions and choices. And that could be a risk to your society and therefore your lifestyle. One last thing before I go, because yes, this TED Talk is also going to be a TikTok, obviously. So I want you guys to give me your most TikToking energy. And when I scream action, you scream TED Talk. And wait for something.